Right, next up we got Jessie Magdaleno dethroning Nonito Donaire of his WBO Super Bantamweight Championship. And what I thought was a dominant display, man. I thought it was, a good fight, a fun fight to watch, and just a fantastic display from Magdaleno. The judges actually scored it 116 to 112, 116 to 112, and 118 to 110. I thought the 118 to 110 was really the most accurate of the scores because to me, just the way that Magdaleno was kind of walking Donaire around, kind of getting him where he wanted him to, landing shots, then moving out of the way as Donaire missed and missed quite widely. I mean, I just thought it was some pretty masterful work in there. He outboxed Donaire. There were a couple of times where Nonito was able to land some pretty good shots, particularly like in the second and the third round, as well as in the fifth. In the fifth, I thought he started the round really well, but I thought that almost every time Nonito started to get a little bit of traction into the fight, Magdaleno had an immediate answer back. And especially in that fifth round, I think was almost exemplary, like in a bit of a microcosm of that, where Donaire started it off really well, landed a few good shots, but Magdaleno, as he was up against the ropes, managed to kind of like crack him with a right hook, spun out of the corner, and then kind of took over from there the rest of the round, and then wound up cracking Nonito with a clean right hook at the end of the round, and then kind of like mean mugged him right at the end of the round, like, yeah, I got you, like you thought you got back into this fight, now I'm putting you right back, where you belong, which is, on the downside, basically on the downswing. And I mean, he pretty much managed to do that overall most of the fight, and I mean, conclusively win. I mean, to me, this was like a definitely a 10-2, 11-1 type of a fight. I thought Magdaleno clearly won it, dominated, was able to just cleanly outbox Nonito, clearly outmove him. And what he did that was very clever, and something that I've kind of criticized Donaire for in the past, is he forced Donaire to lead. He made Donaire kind of stalk him, try to come forward, kind of plod forward, because Nonito has, generally speaking, always been more of a back foot fighter. He's almost kind of one-dimensional in that he knows how to fight going backwards. He's extremely good at countering it, and he's so damn explosive that he's able to generate just a ton of power going backwards, hit you with monster hooks, monster right hands. But coming forward, he's shown a lot more liability. When he fought Manuel Vargas, who was a little bit more mobile, showed a lot of liability until he finally knocked him out. Against Omar Narvaez years back, that was a fight that was universally thought of as kind of a quote-unquote stinker, where Narvaez was able to, just kind of defensively take a lot of the fight out of the fight, basically. He didn't quite throw enough punches on his own in order to actually, win enough rounds in order to win that fight, but he spoiled the hell out of it there and made it a very dull fight for, the Nonito fans out there. Wilfredo Vasquez did a little bit of that too. So did Jeffrey Matabula, and then of course, Guillermo Rigondeaux managed to do that conclusively enough that he actually got a victory. Magdaleno, I thought, replicated a lot of that. Replicated a little bit of what Victor Chinian did too in their rematch, where I thought Darchinian was really like giving Donaire a shellacking until Donaire managed to ratchet off a left hook as Darchinian was getting a little bit too happy with his work. It's kind of posing after he hit him with a clean shot and then just ate a flush left hook as as he was posing, like not realizing that the fight ain't over, man. The fight, just because you landed a good shot don't mean the fight's over. You got to knock that dude out and you have to have the ref waving it off for it to be done with. But I mean, Magdaleno didn't get over anxious either. In the later rounds, I thought there was a possibility that he could turn it up a little bit and try and get a stoppage in there because he was landing combinations. He was landing combinations that he hadn't necessarily been in the earlier rounds, where he was landing just kind of pot shotting in there and moving about. But he kept his cool, didn't get too anxious to try and just knock Donaire out, and I mean just completed his conclusive masterpiece of outboxing Nonito. And, just showed and proved, did a really solid job, and I mean definitely put himself on the map as one of the top 122 pounders in the world. Just one of the top guys in that weight range overall. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. But I mean, I thought he definitely did a solid job. I wouldn't mind seeing him against any of the other champions. Of course, you got Jonathan Guzman out there at the IBF, although I believe he's supposed to be fighting on one of the New Year's cards in Japan. So he's definitely filled in for right now. I'm not sure if Huzumi Hasegawa is gonna fight anytime soon. Coming off of his big upset victory over Hugo Ruiz. Guillermo Rigondeaux, last I heard, was supposed to be fighting his mandatory Moises Fuentes, a guy that I've mentioned a couple of times in the past. But it seems like they haven't managed to get that done I don't know how they haven't managed to get that done because WBA is supposed to be mandating that, and Fuentes has been the mandatory challenger for a very long time now. He's actually got named the mandatory twice, even though he was already the mandatory to begin with. So it's kind of a crazy situation going on there. And then they got Neomar Cermeño, who's actually the regular WBA champion. He's actually gonna looks like gonna be forced to have a rematch with Jun Q Zhao, who he dominantly defeated in their first fight. So I'm not even sure why the hell they're even having that rematch in the first place. I think Cermeño's gonna beat him pretty conclusively again. So, in spite of all that, Magdaleno just beat Donaire. Of course, Donaire had a great war last year with Cesar Juarez, and actually Juarez just became, I believe, I'm not sure if he's the outright mandatory, but up until this fight, Magdaleno was the mandatory for Donaire. He was the number 1 contender. Cesar Juarez was the number 2 contender. So, in all likelihood, there's a good chance that we may see Jessie Magdaleno fight against Cesar Juarez, the guy that gave Donaire hell. And I think. It's a pretty solid fight. A very solid first defense of the title. Should it happen, should it come off, I wouldn't be surprised if it did. Juarez, of course, just fought, I think it was, last week or the week before. Did a solid job of disposing of Richard Pumpicic. So it still showed himself to be just the vicious kind of come forward animal, almost like a Marcos Maidana type of wild type fighter, who may be just the type of fighter to give Jessie Magdaleno a very tough time in there. A guy that's very unorthodox, throwing a lot of punches from all angles, just attacking and attacking and attacking. So, be interesting to see how Magdaleno deals with the type of pressure and just overall physicality that somebody like Juarez would provide. Of course, there's also the guy that's rated at number 3 going into this fight, Ray Vargas, who's a guy that's rated highly, I think, in all the sanctioning bodies. I know he's been the number 1 for a minute for the WBC. Wouldn't mind seeing him get in there against Magdaleno. He's a very good fighter. Good kind of a boxer puncher. Reminds me a little bit of an Eric Morales, maybe a poor man's Eric Morales possibly. But who knows? He may be able to live up to some of the promise that he's shown in some of the lower level fights. Kind of the way that Magdaleno did. Magdaleno came in to this fight with Donaire as a 12-1 underdog. I think largely because of the fact that this was a big step up in just overall class and name value for him. Most of the guys that he had fought before Donaire were kind of fringe journeymen essentially. And so him dominating those guys wasn't necessarily an indicator that he was going to be able to dominate and really, beat a guy conclusively the way he did Donaire at the top level, at the elite level, at the championship level. But he managed to do it, and somebody like Cesar Juarez or Ray Vargas would be an excellent first defense of the title. And it's the types of fights that I would like to see. Got a couple other fighters out there, but overall, I think that Magdaleno did a solid job. Definitely took down one of the bigger names of boxing as a whole. I mean, outside of not even just the super bantamweight division, but he's definitely a well-known commodity overall in the sport. And I mean, he conclusively beat him and did a damn fine job of doing it. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here. I think he's an interesting fighter to watch. Good style, fun fighter to watch overall. Slick, quick, skilled, young fighter. Possibly has a nice little future ahead of him, and it'll be interesting to see how he goes about his career from here on out. So that's all I got to say on this one. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.